Okay, so I have installed powered seats in my BMW i3. These seats are from an X5 F15 car. They are non-memory seats. And they are not comfort seats, these are sport seats. So I'll go through how I did this and some limitations. So we can start with the limitations. I have both a sport seat and a memory seat, also sport seat. The memory seat is for my driver's side. I haven't figured out how to do that one yet. I'll follow up and try to do that. But this guide is only for the non-memory seats. I guess the most important limitation here is the height. As you can see here, the trim can collide with the trim for the door sill. You don't want to do that. So when I take the seat a bit down here, you shouldn't go further down than that. If you go further down on that, you're going to crack the trim. So, if you do this install, just keep that in mind. And, instruct your passengers before they crack your trim by mistake. But you do get pretty low here. It's not a huge problem. So just a demo of the seats, you can do up, forwards, back. Take the seat back, forwards. You can take the headrest up and down. And you also have these other adjustments here. I haven't put in the fuse yet because all the stores are closed because of Easter. I'll demo this once I have the fuse. Oh, and if you twist this one, you can actually adjust just the inclination here in the seat, which is kind of cool. Okay, so how do we install the seat? Well, you gotta get the seat from some sort of F-series car, and I'm not sure if all of them fit, but most of them have the same rail with small variations, but the bolt holes are quite similar. So I'll go through the cabling that we need to do here, because your car, the i3, does not have the cables for powered seats because they weren't delivered with that. So let's have a look at that. And I guess we'll take a look at the fuse box, and I'll explain what I did. In short, there are 3 cables you need to pull in order to make this work. Hang on, let me just find this. So you got 2 of these that you need to take out. Take down your fuse box like this. Okay. So let's see if I can. I can't turn on the flash. Okay. You'll need to take a look at your fuse box and see in this area if you have any empty fuse locations. So the range extender, the hybrid version, that might have fewer free slots than mine does, because I have a battery electric version. And it's this area you want to have free slots in, because you have something called the terminal 30B, terminal 30F, and terminal 15F. And terminal 30B is what you want to connect to. So terminal 30B gives 12 volt power when the driver is around, which is why, even though the car isn't really on right now, this still works. You got terminal 30F, which gives power when the car is on. You don't want to connect to that one, because then the seats won't work when the car is off, but you want to adjust the seats. And then you have terminal 15F, which you also don't want to connect to, because that one is always on. And you want to reduce the risk of electrical fires, so you don't want this seat to have power when you're not around, right? And terminal 30B, when I took a look at the wiring diagrams, I think it's these 4 columns right here, but it's definitely these 2. So you should take a look if you have any free slots in this column and this column. So I had one free slot for a normal fuse, and I had one free slot for a mini fuse. So that's the one up here that I haven't put in yet. And this yellow here is the one I have put in. Here you can see all the cables I've put in. And for a better overview of all this, you should take a look at the documentation that I've linked. So what you want to do is you want to pull 3 wires per seat from the fuse box to the seats. You want 1 wire for the voltage for the seat motors. You want 1 wire for the voltage for the seat valve block, as it's called in ISTA. So the valve block is the one that controls this part. It's actually a little air pump that sits inside the seat back, and that's what controls the lumbar support and this side support. There's tiny little, air bladders here that contract and expand based on this air pump. And then the 3rd wire is just a ground cable. So getting access to the fuse box is actually quite easy. And to take the fuse box apart, there's a little screw up in the right hand corner here. So better pictures in the documentation. You take off that screw, and there's a little clip here as well, which you need to press that way. And then you can wiggle the fuse box free, and then you can get access to all of this. So you pull 2 power cables in here, you connect them to the fuses that are vacant. You need to buy some cables from BMW, part numbers in the documentation, and you need to pull these wires from the fuse box underneath the carpet here, and make it to join the seat connector, the yellow one here. The ground cable is a bit trickier, because the ground in the BMW i3 isn't straightforward, because this has this nice little plastic carbon fiber body, so it doesn't really conduct electricity super well. So you can't just connect to any chassis point to get ground. You actually need to get to the ground terminal over here, or at least that's what I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So in order to get access to the ground terminal, you're gonna have to remove a bunch of stuff, and you're going to remove this stuff anyways, because you're going to pull cables underneath here. So what you want to do is, you of course want to remove your seat. While we're at that, let's just take a look at the stuff in the front here, which is important for safety reasons. So here I've removed the front container and all of that stuff. Before you do anything here, you want to disconnect this one. That's the high voltage connector. And then you want to take a look at the battery over here, and you want to remove the negative terminal. Do you see it down here? Okay. Then it's safe to disconnect this yellow little boy here, and you take out these T50 bolts, 4 of them, and then you whip out your old seats. And then what you want to do is you want to remove this one, this cover right here. Easiest way I found to do it is you just grab down here, you pull it really hard this way, and then once it's popped free, it's like 6 of these little plastic rivets. Once all of those 6 are free, you pull it straight up. Next up, there's this piece right here. There's a screw. I can't see shit here, but there's a screw up here. Yeah, you can barely see it there. There's also a screw down kind of behind the fuse box down here. It's actually quite easy to get to right now, but the fuse box is in the way. Once those are out, hang on, I'll just reattach the fuse box here, make it easier to show. Okay. What you also want to do is, of course, you should remove the carpets. Then you get this thing, T15 screws, 2 of them. Pop it out. So then you have removed this guy, you've removed this guy, then you have access to the carpet. You need to roll back the carpet. Underneath the carpet there is a styrofoam piece that's black, you remove that one, then you get access to the ground points. So most of the work here is actually to get access to the ground points. Once you get access to the ground points, you need to connect your ground cable to it. And then you take the 2 power cables that you got from the fuse box and the 1 ground cable, and you put them inside the fuse box, right? Because you you want to be able to troubleshoot if you fuck up. So what you want to do is you want to have, from the ground point, you take a cable up into the fuse box, cut it, and then you take another set of 3 cables and you pull them along down here underneath the carpet until roughly here, and then you go to the middle underneath the seat and pull them up through a hole that's lying there. And then you take what I've used was Vago connectors, these electrical connectors, and you connect the wires inside the fuse box. So that's these guys. You're gonna make your life a ton easier if you do this. If you want to solder all the way, you can do that, but then troubleshooting is going to be a nightmare. And lying in here and soldering and not burning yourself is really difficult. Okay. So then you've pulled 3 cables, you've gotten them out here. Then it's the magic of this little connector. The pinout for this one is different for different seats. For the F15 seats, that's the X5 seats I installed, they have a bunch of different stuff that is not supported in the i3. It has the charges for the seatbelt pretensioner built into the seat. For some of them I removed that because in the i3 it's actually in the door. And this seat also has, yeah, now the ISO level is way off, but the F15 seat also has an explosive charge inside the headrest. Don't ask me why, but it does, and you just leave that unplugged. So there's a few different things in the new seats that you're going to install that you just leave unplugged. But you need to make sure that the airbag is solid, that the airbag pinout matches. So I made an adapter, but you shouldn't do that because I spent way too much money on it. So if you see in here, you could probably not, but there's actually another yellow connector in here. Yeah, you can't see it. So I made an adapter because then, you know, I leave my original wiring harness on the car untouched. I leave the wiring harness on the seat untouched, and then I just made an adapter. I do not recommend doing that. I actually just recommend moving around the pins on the wiring harness that comes out of the car. No, that comes out of the floor here. Way easier, way less expensive, and yeah. So what have I missed? Oh yeah, seat heating. Seat heating, you want to take the module that was in your original seats, remove that and put it inside these seats. It's just on the underneath here, there's a little module. It has the same pinout as the new seats, except if it's memory seats, then it uses the CAN bus. Okay, so to explain the seat heating here, when you, God, the ISO levels are way off. Let's see, here we are. Now, okay, so when you click on this button over here for the seat heating, what happens is that this actually sends a signal to the body domain controller, which is another little electronics box that sits in here, and that then sends a signal. Well, this button sends a signal over the CAN bus to the body domain controller, and then the body domain controller sends a signal over the LIN bus to the little module that sits underneath your seat. The seats with memory don't work like that. They are actually triggered by the CAN bus directly, which makes it really difficult. But if you just take the seat heating module from the i3 and put it in here, it works just fine. Right, so this isn't a terribly difficult install. I spent most of yesterday doing it. Most of the work here is trying to figure out all the electronic stuff, you know, what goes where, what is required. What is really important is that you get the airbag pins right, because if you fuck up your airbag, you might get that in the face next time you sit in the car. The F15 seats, the rail, the holes are in the same location, but near the back, just take this up a little bit actually. Near the back here, there's a little rod actually that goes right down. It's about 2.5 centimeters long. So I just needed to cut a little hole in the floor to make that fit. Because otherwise, you know, that would just butt against the floor here. But the floor is actually quite thick. You don't risk messing up the carbon fiber. I think it's like at least 10 centimeters thick. So yeah, for the F15 seats you need to do that as well. So I think I covered most of it. Another thing, you actually need to remove the lower trim for the F15 seats. This is the upper trim. There's actually a lower trim part as well that goes like in the front and on the side. You have to remove that because, you know, obviously you don't have a ton of space here. So that was actually just colliding with this one. So what I'm thinking about doing is actually making a custom version of this trim that stops a bit sooner, that doesn't go quite as much this way. And what I've done here is I've just sprayed the entire thing with silicone, because when this one moves back and forth, there's a tiny little metal piece over here that kind of rubs against it. But it's not that bad. It still works just fine, but it made a bit of a noise. So that's why there's silicone here. So yeah, this is not a terribly difficult install. I recommend reading the documentation that I'm posting. This video is actually just to give you a sort of a visual indication that this actually does work, and that is not that difficult. It's quite manageable. It's just 3 wires per seat. The seat has a bunch of additional features, but you don't need them. There's even an LED strip here actually, which you can connect with 2 different lighting modes. I'm going to do that long term, but not right now. And somebody wondered about the space in the back, how much that is affected. So let me just put this in a location where I would actually sit. Maybe something like this. And I'm sorry about the ISO level here, that's why it's completely white. It won't reset itself. Then maybe a little bit further with the seat here. I'm gonna go sit in the back. I'm a 6-foot dude. It's fine. These seats actually have this little sort of a alcove for your knees, which is actually pretty cool. And they have this neat little pouch. So they're actually not that bad when it comes to size. And yeah, I'm very happy about this install. And the wires over here, that's actually for the driver's side seat. I pulled them, but I haven't installed the other seats, so they're just here with some connectors so that, you know, I don't fry anything. All right, so I'm gonna do a follow-up video once I've got the driver's side seat sorted. And yeah, if you want to do this install, good luck. This is a European battery electric version. If you have an US REX version, things are going to be a little bit different, but it shouldn't be drastically different. So good luck. I'm active on the BMW i3 Modified Facebook group. So if you have any problems, just post a question there and maybe I'll answer. All right, take care.